Have you ever wondered how you build a sacred space? Not just stacking stones, but actually constructing a place that feels different, a place designed to connect heaven and earth. Well, today that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to follow the ancient blueprint step by step and build the courtyard of the tabernacle right here, right now.
So where do you even begin? How do you build a home for the holy, a physical spot for an infinite presence? Well, the instructions are pretty clear. You don't start with the walls. You don't start at the gate. You start right in the middle, with the very heart of the entire thing.
And that heart is the bronze altar. This is piece number one. It's the most critical part of the whole puzzle. It's the center of everything, a place of fire, of sacrifice, and of transformation. So let's watch it come together.
Okay, verse 1. The blueprint starts with acacia wood. Now, this isn't just any wood, it's incredibly tough, dense, and rot-resistant, perfect for the desert. The dimensions are precise, a perfect square, 5 cubits by 5 cubits. A cubit is roughly 1.5 feet, so picture a box that's about 7.5 feet square. Then verse 2 adds these two crucial features: 4 horns carved from the very same wood at the corners, and then the whole thing gets covered in bronze, a metal that can handle intense, intense fire.
So just imagine that. You have this core of natural, rugged wood, completely encased in a shimmering, powerful shell of bronze. And those horns? They aren't just for looks. In the ancient world, horns were a symbol of power and strength. To grab the horns of an altar was like a last-ditch plea for mercy. So right from the get-go, this altar is built to be a place of both awesome power and profound protection. An altar isn't just a monument, it's a workstation. So verse 3 tells them to forge all the tools they're going to need. And notice the material. Every single item, from the pans that catch the ash to the shovels and forks, it all has to be made of bronze. It's a complete, unified toolkit, all designed to do the hard work and stand the heat.
And when you look at this list, you really get a feel for the kind of intense, fiery work that's going to happen here. You've got pans and shovels for the messy but essential job of cleaning out the ash, basins for ceremonial washing, forks to handle the offerings, and fire pans for moving live coals. This is a very hands-on, very real place.
Now for the inside. Verse 4 describes this heavy-duty bronze grate. Think of it like a net woven from metal, strong enough to hold the fire and the sacrifice. And verse 5 tells us exactly where to put it. It gets lowered into that hollow wooden box, and it settles perfectly, halfway down. This is actually a brilliant design. It allows air to get in from underneath and really fuel the fire.
Can't you just see it? This heavy bronze grid being carefully lowered into the bronze-covered frame, fitting perfectly into place. It's the final piece of engineering that makes the whole thing work. With that grate installed, the altar is now officially ready for business. But here's the thing. This sacred space was never meant to be stationary. Verse 6 calls for carrying poles, again made from that same tough acacia wood and covered in bronze, and verse 7 shows us how they work. They're designed to slide right through those rings we saw on the grate, so the entire altar can be lifted and carried.
And you can just picture it, can't you? Those long, gleaming poles sliding smoothly through the bronze rings. In that one motion, this incredibly heavy, sacred object becomes portable. It's not a fixed monument, it's the mobile heart of a people on the move.
Okay, so the central altar is built. It's ready to go. But an altar this holy can't just sit out in the open desert. It needs defined space, a boundary between the sacred and the everyday. So now it's time to zoom out and build the walls of the courtyard itself.
The boundary isn't going to be stone or wood, it's fabric, fine woven linen, which was a symbol of purity and righteousness. And the scale here is just massive. The north and south walls are each supposed to be 100 cubits long. Again, with a cubit being about 1.5 feet, we're talking about 2 linen walls, each stretching 150 feet. That's half the length of a football field.
So picture this. 2 enormous walls of pure, brilliant white linen, each half a football field long, rising 7.5 feet into the air. They're held up by 20 pillars on each side, set in heavy bronze sockets at the bottom, but then detailed with these beautiful, gleaming silver hooks and bands at the top. You get this incredible contrast of pure white, earthy bronze, and precious silver.
All right, now we have to close the rectangle. Verse 12 calls for a 50-cubit wall for the west side, the back. Then, verses 14 and 15 describe the front, the east side, where the entrance will be. It's framed by 2 smaller, 15-cubit curtains, leaving a very specific gap right in the center.
So, a final 75-foot wall of white linen closes off the back, completing this huge rectangle of white. But the front is left open,
flanked by these two smaller curtains. And this creates a very intentional 30-foot wide opening that draws all of your attention to the one and only way in. The stage is set for the grand entrance.
And that entrance is not just a gap. It is a masterpiece. The blueprint calls for a screen woven by a master artisan, using these brilliant threads of blue, purple, and scarlet. You have to remember, these dyes were incredibly expensive, often linked with royalty and the heavens. This tells you right away, this is no ordinary door.
This is the visual climax of the whole structure. In this vast sea of pure white, the entrance just explodes with color. Royal blue, deep purple, fiery scarlet. It is the only point of color on the entire perimeter, and it's designed to grab your eye and mark the exact spot where you cross from the common world into the holy one.
And finally, we get a summary verse, almost like it's locking in the final dimensions, 100 cubits long, 50 wide, 5 high. This isn't just a random fence, it's a perfectly proportioned space designed with divine intention from the ground up.
This little table really helps put it all in perspective. We're talking about a space 150 feet long by 75 feet wide. The walls are just high enough to create a sense of separation without feeling like a prison. And you see that deliberate choice of materials again. Strong bronze for the foundation, precious silver for the details, and pure linen for the walls.
So, the structure is complete. The altar is in its place, the sacred boundaries are drawn. But a building is just a building, until it has a life, a purpose. And these final instructions, they shift from the act of construction to the act of constant care.
And here the focus just completely pivots. Verse 20 is a command for all the people. It's now their job collectively to provide the fuel, and not just any old oil, but the purest oil from pressed olives, to keep a lamp burning. And what's the most important word in that verse? Continually.
This is a huge turning point. The divine blueprint is finished. Now human responsibility begins. It shows that the holiness of this space isn't just in its design, it's in the constant daily effort of the entire community to keep that light burning inside.
And that responsibility gets a name in verse 21. It's the job of Aaron and his sons, the priests, to tend this flame, from evening until morning, every single night. This isn't a one-time setup. It's a permanent, generational duty, a statute, forever.
And that's where we end. The physical construction is done, a perfect execution of a divine plan. But the final verses leave us with a much, much deeper question. You see, it's one thing to build a sacred space, it's another thing entirely to keep the light burning. What does that kind of endless vigilance, that constant contribution, truly require of us?